We have a new president. The Fed has decided to cut the rate once again, and the temperature has dropped by about 30 degrees if you're living up here in the Northeast. A lot of craziness, a lot of uncontrollables, but we're trying to persevere and push through, people. So we're going to take some time to talk about that this week. Not really the temperature thing, more so the first two that I mentioned. So let's get into it. And we'll be back in 3, 2, 1. We gone. Welcome back, family, to another episode of the First Sip Podcast. I'm your host, Dekimbe Smith, and this week we are sipping on some black coffee as we reflect on what's been going on for the past 2 weeks. Now, since the last time we talked, a couple things have been going on. Starting off with the presidential election. Now, this is not a political podcast, but we got to talk about things like this when they happen because they definitely affect the housing market, they affect business, and they affect our personal lives. So all three categories that we like to talk about on this podcast. So we're going to go ahead and dive into it. The country has voted. Donald Trump is back in office. Now, on the last episode, I was talking about some of the proposals they had for the housing market and what we could potentially see if one or the other was to take office. And, well, now we have our answer. The country went out and voted and said, Donald Trump, we want you back. So he's been rehired. Now, going forward, if you didn't hear some of the things I talked about last week, these are some of the things that I'm interested to see now. Are we going to have a solution put forward, any policies put forward to address the supply and the inventory issues that we have here in the U.S., right? We are down by, let's say, probably 5 million homes in the U.S., and that is a huge gap that needs to be filled. There hasn't been much conversation going on about like how that could be solved and what we can do. But like I said before, there are some talks about opening up federal lands, giving some incentives to builders to go out there and start kind of filling that gap so we can deal with this affordability crisis and the supply issue in the housing market. Now, once again, this is not a short-term solution. So for the short term, what I do see happening, interest rates don't seem like they're going to be dropping drastically anytime soon. Ever since the news came out, rates are now right back around 7%. Now, of course, that depends on if you're paying some points, whatever that might be for your specific situation. But generally speaking, we're right at the high 6s and 7s. So that's something I'm very curious to see. Okay, what's going to happen with home prices going into the new year? Right now in 2024, home sales are at an all-time low, right? I don't even think we've cracked 4 million. I don't even think we've cracked 4 million sales so far for this year. And that is, if you pay attention to the data, that is not a great year when it comes to real estate sales. Now, going forward, like I said, there's a lot of momentum right now. A lot of people are excited about Donald Trump being back in office, especially from the economic standpoint. People went out and said, you know what? Things are tough right now. It's hard to afford certain things. Home prices are high, gas prices are high, egg prices are high, everything from the top to the bottom. So what do we do? This is something I'm keeping my eye on as well because, like I said, rates do not seem to be coming down fast enough for some people. And when you look at it, home prices still are very stagnant. They're not dropping in most markets. And going into this new year, are we going to see more rate cuts? Are the interest rates that we're seeing on mortgages, are those going to be going down? Or are we just going to be kind of in this holding pattern while the Fed tries to see what happens with the economy over the next year? And this brings me to another point where I remember before when Trump was in office last time, he was kind of upset with Jerome Powell because of his speed to act on cutting the rates. He thought he was moving a little bit too slow and that he should have done a better job at cutting rates faster. So, basically things could get going again. Now, that's why I said going forward into the new year, are we going to see more of that kind of pressure again? Is he going to be pressured to drop the rates faster than he has? Or is he going to kind of have that autonomy and that control to continue to do what he's doing and, hopefully avoid a recession? But we'll see. We'll see what happens as we go forward. I don't have a crystal ball, like I like to say. I can't make any guarantees, but one thing I am predicting is that home prices are not going to be coming down anytime soon, and interest rates are not going to be back down to 4% anytime soon. So if that is something that you have on your checklist for the new year when it comes to buying a home, make sure you're having that conversation with your lender, with your agent. If you need help connecting with one, like I say, feel free to reach out. But let's have these conversations early on because we don't know what's about to happen. We have predictions and people like to, hope for the best. But let's prepare for the best, right? And not just hope for it. So let's move into the next topic, which is the Fed cutting the rate recently. Now, since our last conversation, the Fed went ahead and cut the rate by about 25 basis points, right? So that's about 0.25%. And we're expecting to see another one come next month. So that should put us in a good place. We don't know how the market's going to react to it yet. But so far from what we've seen, like I said before, the market isn't jumping quickly and saying, okay, time to cut the rates all around and let's get down to 5% on a mortgage. We're not seeing it. Now he has his old boss back, Donald Trump. And like I was saying just now, I don't know how he's going to deal with the pressure to cut the rates. And under the Biden administration, he definitely took his sweet old time to cut rates. And some people said it was also way too slow. Maybe we should have seen some relief earlier. But on the opposite side, we haven't seen a crazy recession. We haven't seen, we've definitely seen a lot of inflation on certain things. But I'm a believer that it could have been a lot worse as well. And like I said plenty of times too, if we go ahead and cut rates back down to 4%, what do we think is going to happen to home prices? I don't see them dropping. The home that's $700,000 now, the second interest rates drop back down to 4%, it's going up to 800, right? What would you do as a homeowner? What would you do as an investor, looking to sell some properties? And I'm already seeing it. I was talking to somebody last week who increased the price on their home that's been sitting for about 90 days. And they said, you know what? I'm going to increase it by about $10,000 because the market's starting to pick back up. There's more buzz happening. So people are already making decisions like this without any real data to support it, just going off of feeling and momentum. So those are things that I'm really interested to see, like what's going to happen in this new year, because there is a lot of people who are happy, who feel that energy coming back. Like I said, it feels like their favorite team just won the biggest sporting event that they go to. And when we look at that, that's going to have an effect on the market. It's going to have an effect on businesses. So we got to see what's going to happen and just be ready for it. So that brings me to my first tip of the week. Now, this is something I might start doing going forward, but basically what I wanted us to do, because it's something that I've been checking in with my family, is what does our savings look like? Do we have enough cash to react to any opportunities? Are we putting our cash in a savings vessel that makes sense? Instead of just leaving it in the regular savings account that might come with your checking, maybe like a Bank of America or a Chase, where you might be getting like 0.8%, maybe 1% on that savings account. Are you checking out the online savings accounts, other high yield savings accounts that are paying you 4.5%, 5% on your money? Because these are things, like I said, if you're making sure that you're putting your money aside properly on a monthly basis, when those opportunities come up, like a rate cut or the home that you've been looking for, or even another investment opportunity, you can go ahead and act on it, right? So that's something I want us to go ahead and do. If you haven't, done it in a while, just check and see, like, what does my rate look like on my savings account right now? Is it comparable to other banks that I might be able to move my money to so I can get a better return on it? It's just a simple thing, right? It can take 10 minutes a day. Just go on Google and search best savings accounts in 2024, and you'll see a whole long list. Do your research, see what works best for you. I recommend something that you can't transfer out easily, because I've done that plenty of times, where it's like you set up your savings account, and then you have that easy feature with Zelle or a quick little transfer where you can move it right back and forth. So it's like you're playing ping pong with yourself, and you never actually save money. So look for something where it takes about 2 days for you to move the money back over and set yourself up correctly. And then finishing it off with the best part of the episode, the content rec of the week. This week I checked out Rebel Ridge, and if you guys haven't seen it, it's on Netflix, and man, that movie was good. It is what I like to refer to as a top 10, shoot 'em up, roll around crazy, guy doesn't die even though he should have probably in the first 5 minutes of the movie. One of those kind of movies. So to give you a quick background on the movie without giving it all away, this guy rides into a small town ready to pay his cousin's bail because his cousin got into a little issue with some drugs and the cops caught him. And this is one of those towns where you probably don't want to be black and get caught with the drug issue, just being honest with you. So the story starts to unfold where the guy is riding into the town on his bike and he rides past a cop. And from there, the slippery slope just begins. The cop knocks him off his bike. He pushes him down on the ground, calls in another cop. They take his bail money away. And things just continue to get worse and worse from there. Not for him, but for the cops, because they didn't realize who they were messing with. This guy shows up to the police station, very nice, respectfully, and says, hey, listen, let's work out a deal. I didn't do what they said I did. I just need my money back to get my cousin out of prison, so let's come to an agreement. They don't want to come to an agreement. They kind of punk him and say, get out of here before we do something serious to you. And he's like, okay, cool. He comes back a little bit later. At the time that he comes back, they're now Googling this guy like, who is this person? Why does he think he can try us? And let's just say they find out exactly who this guy is. And he lets them know why they should have just taken the deal in the first place, let him get his cousin out of prison, and let him ride back out of town. They don't, and they find out. Guys, check out Rebel Ridge on Netflix. I'm telling you, you'll definitely enjoy it. Top 10 movie. If you do, go ahead and shoot me a text so we can talk about it. But until next time, I'm going to keep bringing you guys the news. You guys keep tuning in, stay curious, and as always, enjoy your first sip.